Allah, when He gives a bounty, He will never take that bounty away from you until you do something that is deserving that Allah takes that bounty away. And we should not protest, but we should not reflect or deflect everything and shift all the blame upon a group of people and forget ourselves. Qusayy, he did not know, and he truly believed that Rabi'a is my father, because he was very, very young when he lost his father. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. لإلاف قريش إلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف. Surah Fil, translation. Because of the familiarity of the Quraish, that is their familiarity with the trips of winter and summer, they must worship the Lord of this house, who gave them food against hunger and gave them security against fear. Sadaqallahul Azim. Alhamdulillah, for the last few weeks we have been discussing the family tree of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The last forefather that we were discussing in the last lesson was Kilab. Kilab's son, his name is Qusayy. And we made mention that Qusayy is a very important forefather in this lineage. To understand the contribution of Qusayy, we have to create the theater for the entry of Qusayy. So we're going to speak a little bit about history before the entry of Qusayy, so you can understand how important he is. We came to know that there were two types of people in the Arab Peninsula. We spoke about this in the first or the second lesson, the Adnani and the Qahtanis. And for us to understand, we translated them as those that secured citizenship and those that were citizens of the country, that were born there, their forefathers were born there. So the originals. We made mention that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's forefathers, Hazrat Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam, and his progeny are known as the Adnanis. And when Nabi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to speak about his lineage, he used to go up to Adnan. He did not go beyond that. Because beyond that to Ismail and beyond, there is distortion. But up to Adnan, you can say that these are the forefathers with certainty. So up to Adnan, there's about 21, 22 forefathers. We made mention further that Hazrat Ismail alayhi salatu wassalam, he married into the Jurham tribe. So the Jurham and the Ismail tribes came together. And basically they were ruling the Arab Peninsula, or you can say they were ruling Makkatul Mukarramah, this important city in the Arab Peninsula. Then a time came that a Khuzai tribe, not a Adnani, all right, Khuzai are those that are originals. They took leadership away from Banu Ismail and Banu, who was the other one? Banu Jurham. So Khuzai tribe came and they took over the Arab Peninsula, or they took over the leadership of Makkatul Mukarramah from Banu Ismail, the family of Hazrat Ismail and the family of Jurham. Now keep in mind, and this is very, very important, a lot of people say, why do we need to study history? Why do we need to study history? History has a lot of lessons for humanity. Because history is created by human beings. And human beings have the tendency to make the same mistakes and fall in the same holes. So if we study history, and we study history with contemplation, we will draw many, many lessons. And with these lessons, we can save ourselves from falling into holes. Now, we made mention of a principle, and I want you to remember this principle. And I've said this many a times, but I want you to really, really print this on your heart. This principle applies to individuals. This principle applies to communities. And this principle applies to nations. And this is the principle of Allah. And we learn this principle from history. We learn this principle by the sayings of intelligent people, pious people, prophets. That Allah, when He gives a bounty, He will never take that bounty away from you until you do something that is deserving that Allah takes that bounty away. Remember that. Allah will never take a bounty away from you. He will give you a bounty, sometimes through your du'as, and sometimes you have not even made du'a for it, but you receive a bounty. If a generous person, a human being, gives you a bounty, you do not expect him to take that bounty away from you. How can we expect the King of all kings and the most generous to take the bounty away? But there's a principle behind this, that He will take that bounty away when we do something by which we indicate that we are not deserving of that bounty. So now Banu Jurham and Banu Ismail, they had the leadership of this beautiful sanctuary. But Allah Almighty took it away from them. Why did He take it away from them? When He gave it to Banu Ismail and Banu Jurham, why did He take this sanctuary away? So I want you to remember, this is a very important verse. We spent maybe half an hour this Sunday in the tafsir program speaking about this. And I would like you to remember this verse. The Quran is the solution to everything. After Surah Yusuf comes a surah known as Surah Ra'ad. And Surah Ra'ad is Surah number 13. And I would like you to look at the screen, and it is verse number 11. And I'm going to read the second half of verse number 11. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ وَإِذَا أَرَادَ اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ سُوءٍ فَلَا مَرَدَّ لَهُ وَمَا لَهُم مِّن دُونِهِ مِن وَالٍ. Now, the translation is, surely Allah does not change the condition of a people unless they change themselves. When Allah intends evil for a people, there is no way to turn it back. And for them, there is no patron, protector, helper other than Him. It seems like whenever we find ourselves in a hole and we find ourselves being kicked from pillar to post, we shift all the blame upon others. That's what we do. We will say that the Yahuda Adubullah, the Yahuda this, America is this, these are the enemies of Allah Almighty. And our entire discussion, dialogue, frustration, anger revolves around these statements. This is another plot. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but this is another plot and another method of the shaitan to keep us away from studying ourselves. We need to study why Allah gave this bounty to us and then took this bounty away. If Allah has given us something and then takes that bounty away, there's a reason behind it. Because He's the King of all kings. He's the most generous. But He has principles by which He gives, and He has principles by which He takes. So the message of this verse of Surah Ra'd is we need to really focus upon ourselves. Individually, what are we doing? And collectively, what we are doing. So Banu Jurham, when the scholars, the historians speak about Banu Jurham, because they were connected with Banu Ismail, and they were the custodians of the noble sanctuary, and the noble sanctuary was revered by all, automatically they were upgraded in the Arab Peninsula. So for some time, they upheld the morals, the principles, the levels of taqwa and piety and righteousness. But as people become stronger, wealthier, prosperous, the test becomes intense. They failed in the test. They fell to carnal desires. They fell to pleasure. They fell to ease. Their principles in life, their morals, their ethics dropped. So when it dropped, Allah Almighty took the leadership of Makkah from them. And this is the principle of Allah. Baytul Muqaddas has been taken away from us. There's a reason behind it. There's a reason. But I said yesterday, and I say this again, don't be too demoralized. We've only lost Baytul Muqaddas for about 150 years out of 1400 years. Not too long. The first Crusades, we lost it for about 88 years, and Salahuddin Ayyubi took over again. 88 years. And we've lost it now. But because we have not experienced this much in our beautiful, rich history, so we are confused. But there should be no reason of confusion for us. The Quran has the antidote. The Quran has the solution, and history teaches us the lessons. Remember this. I'm not saying we should not say that the enemies of Allah are not the enemies of Allah. And we should not protest. But we should not reflect or deflect everything and shift all the blame upon a group of people and forget ourselves. It's not going to work, because Allah says, I will not change your condition. We need to change ourselves. Now, Banu Jurham at that time, when they had fallen into a hole of weakness, a hole of sin, a hole of leisure, a hole of disrespect to the commandments of Allah Almighty, the leader at that time of Banu Jurham, his name was Maddad bin Amr bin Haris. He was the leader of Banu Jurham. Maddad bin Amr bin Haris. He spoke to the Jurham and the Banu Ismail people. He said, look, he said, wake up. I sense and I can smell there's going to be an attack. We're going to lose control. Because everyone wants to control the noble sanctuary. Because whoever controls the noble sanctuary, he receives many perks and many benefits. And if we are not strong, mighty, united, we will lose the leadership of this place. But the people were in deep slumber. They'd fallen asleep. They were not listening to the advice of Maddad bin Amr bin Haris. So what he did is, he realized that these people are not going to take heed. They're going to remain asleep. So what he did is he went into the Kaaba. He went inside the Kaaba, and he realized that there were many valuable items in the Kaaba. So they said that there were two animals made out of gold that were placed as an offering in the Kaaba. And there were many other articles and valuables in the Kaaba. At night time, he took them all out, as he was the custodian of the Kaaba. He took that all out, knowing that we are going to lose control. He went to Zamzam, the well, and he threw all that into Zamzam. And then he covered the Zamzam. He concealed the Zamzam. You boys at the back, behave. Break your partnership. Break your partnership. Break your partnership. So now what happens is that Maddad bin Amr bin Haris, he throws all the valuable articles into the well. And then the well of Zamzam. And then he covers the well of Zamzam. Conceals it. Now he's concealed Zamzam, feeling that we're going to lose control. Now what happens is, as he thought that he will lose control, that manifested in a few days. And Banu Khuza'a came and took over the leadership. So now Maddad bin Amr bin Haris, who is the leader of Banu Jurham, he and Banu Ismail unitedly, they exit Makkatul Mukarramah. Now leadership is given to who? Banu Khuza'a. Banu Khuza'a takes over. And they rule Makkatul Mukarramah, this noble sanctuary, for 290 years. How many years? 290 years. We haven't lost Baytul Muqaddas for too long. Inshallah, we will return. Don't be demoralized. 290 years, they lose it. The person that brings leadership back to Quraish, the Adnani tribe, Banu Ismail, is Qusaiyy. This person. That's why he's very, very important. He's very, very important. And he's not too far away from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his father Abdullah, Abdullah's father Shayba, whose name is Abdul Muttalib, Abdul Muttalib's father Hashim, Hashim's father Abd Manaf, and Abd Manaf's father Qusay. Not far away. From Qusay to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there's only 150 years left. Remember that. From Qusay to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, how many years are left? 150 years from Qusay, and you keep going down, right down to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only about 150 years. But we had lost, and I say we because we are the ummah of the Nabi of Allah, we had lost the leadership of the noble sanctuary for about 290 years. But Allah returned it back through Qusay. Now, how did he regain? Just didn't happen like that. He played the game. Siyasaddan tha, he was a politician. Very intelligent. Very shrewd. Emotionally switched on. Rationally switched on. He knew how to play the game, as you will understand in a few moments. Why would Banu Khuza'a give Qusay leadership? Why? They didn't want to. But Qusay had a game. He was sincere to the higher objective. He had a higher goal. And basically he did whatever he had to do to regain leadership, as you will learn in a few moments. Now, who is... So you have to understand that this person is a very important person. All right. Now, Qusay, he is known as Majma'. One of his name is Majma', from Jama', bringing together. You will understand what this means in a few moments. A poet, he says, Abukum Qusayy. Abukum Qusayy. Your father is Qusayy. Now he is speaking to the people of Arabia. Abukum Qusayy, especially the Quraish, the children of Fihr. Abukum Qusayy. Your father is Qusayy. Kana yud'a mujamma'a. He invited you to come together. Qusay invited you to come together. Bihi jamma Allahul qabail, and through his efforts, all the different tribes came together. Min Fihri, from the family or from the children of Fihr. Remember Fihr? His name was Quraish. All right. So this is what the poet said about Qusay. Now, what did Qusay do? How did he bring them together, and how did he regain leadership? So we're going to speak about bringing together first. You'll be surprised to know that before Qusay, no one used to live around the Kaaba. You know, nowadays we have the hotels and their houses. When we study the city in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the house of Hazrat Ali, the house of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, very, very close to the Kaaba. But Banu Khuza'a, Banu Jurham, Banu Ismail, till Qusay, They had an understanding. They developed their own level of respect for the Kaaba, and they said that, look, it is not proper that we live in the noble sanctuary. No one is allowed to live in the noble sanctuary. We will come, we will pray, we will offer animals, we will do our ibadat, but for living and for dwelling and for houses, we will go to the outskirts. How far do we go? We go to that area where we are allowed to hunt, where the noble sanctuary ends. So the noble sanctuary was empty. There was only a Kaaba there. So they went right out. When Qusayy came, he said, this is not right. Now, we learn from this. I said the Seerah program is going to be very different. Not only Seerah, we're going to learn lessons. We're going to extract lessons. What do we do? What do we do? We sometimes, when we are reading Quran, if one person, he stretches out his legs and he reads Quran, there'll be many muftis that will come. They'll say you're disrespecting the Quran. True. Especially from the subcontinent. True. If one person is reading Quran and one person comes and sits and the Quran is behind him, we will say this is haram. You're showing your back to the Quran. Now these standards of respect have been made by us. These are not the right standards. These are not the right standards. If one person is old and he can't sit properly, he can't sit on the chair, the maqsad is reading the Quran. And the respect is in the heart. I'm not saying you should stretch your legs, youngsters, if you don't have to. I was once reading on the chair and there was a Quran on a bench and I was sitting higher than the Quran. Now you know that I have knee problems and I have a back problem. So one of my friends, he came and he said, Imam Sahib, you may not know you are sitting above the Quran. I said, so? Now we have made these, these gauges of respect that are not Islamic. Maqsad is to read the Quran and have respect in your heart. But at the same time, I'm not saying I am comfortable with putting the Quran on the ground. I'm not saying that. So some people even put the Quran on the ground. They go to the extreme level. Now that is some kind of disrespect to the Quran. Because the Quran is not a normal book, it's the word of Allah Almighty. But we need to be very, very careful. I went to Nizamuddin Awliya's shrine in India to read Surah Al-Fatiha. And I remember till today, when I read Surah Al-Fatiha and I made a U-turn to come back, one person, he came and he grabbed me with anger and he said, how dare you walk out showing your back to the person that is buried in the grave? Where do you get these steps of respect? So these people in their mind, they said, oh, we can't live in Mecca. We can't live around the Kaaba. So they used to come, do whatever they needed to do in the noble sanctuary and then walk out. I don't know how many Ks. And their houses were right on the outskirts. Qusayy, he felt that this was wrong. Now, he's not far away from Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. All this is preparation for the arrival, for the master to arrive. So now what Qusayy says, he says, look, we need to come inside. We need to come inside. So the first thing he did is he made Darun Nadwa. So he made a parliament. He made a city hall. And he made it in that area where people did not reside. And in the city hall, nikahs used to take place. Matters were discussed in the city hall. If there was any dispute between two people, two tribes, matter used to be solved in the city hall. If any group had to be sent, dispatched, they used to be dispatched from the city hall. So it was a center where people used to come together. And then he said, look, we should all make houses inside, but keep one thing in mind, that people do come throughout the year and during the days of Hajj. We need people to make tawaf around the Kaaba without any object. Right? So there shouldn't be any barricade in making the tawaf. So let's make the mataf that we say nowadays empty, but around that you can make all houses. This was the vision of Qusayy. And he said that let's bring all the tribes, because some tribes they were in the mountains, some tribes were in the desert, some tribes were living in the caves. He said, come out and let's all live around this beautiful area. So Qusay's contribution, first contribution is that. Now, how did he regain leadership of Makkatul Mukarramah? So it has been said that when Madad bin Amr bin Haris, he concealed the Kaaba with the articles of good that he took out from the Kaaba, Banu Khuzā took over. Now what happened is that Kilab had a wife. So above Qusayy, we spoke about him last week. So Qusay's father, his name is Kilab. We spoke about him last week. Kilab married a lady whose name was Fatima bint Sa'ad bin Sahal. So Qusay's mother's name is Fatima. Just remember Fatima. For those people that want to learn a little bit more, Fatima bint Sa'ad. All right? And then if you want to learn a little bit more, Fatima bint Sa'ad bin Suhail. All right? So Fatima. So Fatima was the mother of who? Qusayy. Married to Kilab. Now Fatima gave birth to two boys. One boy, his name was Zuhra, and the second boy's name is Qusayy. So we only made mention of Qusayy, this Qusayy. But he has a brother whose name is Zuhra. Qusayy is younger, Zuhra is older. Now when Fatima lost her husband Kilab, she doesn't have a husband. So what happened is she married a person whose name was Rabi'a bin Haram. Rabi'a bin Haram. So Qusay's mother Fatima, after losing her husband Kilab, Fatima married another person. What is the name of this person? Rabi'a bin Haram. So now Rabi'a bin Haram becomes the father of Qusayy. So Rabi'a bin Haram did not find Makkah to be very suitable. So he said, we are going to make hijrah from here. So they made hijrah to Sham. So now Fatima, mother, new husband Rabi'a, and the two children from Kilab, Zuhra and Qusayy, they traveled to Sham. Got it? Now up there they have another brother. Because now Fatima and Rabi'a have another child whose name is Daraj. So now there are three brothers. Now one day what happened is Qusayy, he did not know, and he truly believed that Rabi'a is my father, because he was very, very young when he lost his father, when he lost Kilab. So now Qusayy, he recognized Rabi'a to be his father, because Rabi'a was a very good person. One day, while there was a discussion, and in the Arabs there was always a discussion about your lineage. So Rabi'a, who was taken as the father of Qusayy by Qusayy, he was mentioning the lineage of Rabi'a, that this is my lineage and this is it and this is it, in front of a cousin who had the same lineage. And the cousin said that you are not from our family. Who do you think you are? Rabi'a is not your father. He said, what? Rabi'a is not my father. So now Qusayy goes to his mother Fatima and says, Fatima, mother, today I found out that Rabi'a is not my father. And I was boasting about the lineage of Rabi'a, my father, I thought. But they said that you don't have a good lineage. So now Fatima, she says, oh, no. You have the best. This is nothing. Rabi'a's lineage is nothing. You are from Kilab bin Murra. Qusayy bin Kalab bin Murra bin Ka'ab. Bin Luway bin Ghalib bin Fihr. You have the best lineage. So he goes, what? So he said, I'm not going to live here anymore. So now Qusayy leaves Sham. He leaves his mother, he leaves his brother, Zuhra, and he leaves his other brother, Daraj. And he comes to Makkatul Mukarramah. Now in Makkatul Mukarramah, who is holding the control? Banu Khuzā. You got it? That's why I had to give you this backdrop. All right. So Now he returns to Mecca. Now he plays politics. Now Qusay plays politics. Masterstroke. He looks around and he finds that Banu Khuzā is in control. Now, the entire family tree of the Prophet of Allah, the forefathers of the Prophet of Allah, were carrying the beauty of the Prophet. So they're all very, very handsome. Qusay had a very beautiful talent of making money. So he knew how to do trade, and he was very, very good looking. So he looked around and he found that the most powerful person right now is from Banu Khuzā, and his name is Halil bin Habshiyya. Halil bin Habshiyya. He's the most powerful person. And Qusay's luck, he has a daughter. Halil bin Habshiyya has a daughter whose name is Hibbi bint Habshiyya. Hibbi. So now Qusay goes to Halil bin Habshiyya and he says, I would like to marry your daughter. And he went just not like that. He made a lot of wealth. Want a good wife, be a good earner. Remember that. You need to earn well. This is nothing against the women. The women want to marry a person that makes good wealth. You are the provider. You go with an empty pocket and you say, I'm muttaqi. She's not marrying muttaqi. She's not going to marry taqwa. She's going to marry a person that provides. That's very, very important. Think about it. Who are the son-in-laws of Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? Hazrat Usman Ghani, twice. If I had a third daughter, Hazrat Usman Ghani, good provider. Muttaqi as well, no doubt about it, but good provider as well. We need to provide. So now Qusay had made a lot of wealth. He has a very strong lineage. He goes to Halil bin Habshiyya and he says, I want to marry your daughter. There's no reason for him to say no. He says, all right, you can marry my daughter. So now he marries the most powerful person's daughter who is from the Khuzā tribe. He was a Khuzai. Now what happens? Whoa. Now what happens? After some time, Halil bin Habshiyya falls sick. Now when Halil bin Habshiyya falls sick, he doesn't give the keys to his son-in-law. He gives the keys to his daughter. So the daughter has the upper hand. So he was playing politics as well, you can say. So he didn't give the keys to Qusay, who is the son-in-law. He gave the keys to the wife of Qusay, that is his daughter, whose name is Hibbi bin Habshiyya. He gives the keys to her and says, you keep the keys and rule, take care of all the affairs. And then he passes away. Now when he passes away, Hibbi bin Habshiyya, she was not interested in ruling. But she knew that the father did not want the keys to go into the Quraish. That's why the father gave it to me, not to Qusay. And Qusay was more capable. So she gave it to another person whose name was Abu Ghasyan Khuzai. He was a Khuzai person from Halil bin Habshiyya's tribe. So she, the wife of Qusay, gave the keys to this Abu Ghasyan. Abu Ghasyan was alcoholic. He was a drunkard. So once again, Qusay, very intelligent, he went to him. That person wanted some money for alcohol. He said, I will give you twice that, but give me the keys of the Kaaba. So he gave the keys of the Kaaba to Qusay, and Qusay gave him money that basically used towards alcohol. So now, what happens? Once you have the keys, you are the leader. This is how Qusay took over, but it doesn't end here. When the keys were taken by Qusay of the Kaaba, what happens now? The Khuzai tribe and the members of the Khuzā, they say, what has happened? We have lost the keys. This Abu Ghasyan is a drunken. He gave the keys for a few dimes. So now they sent a message to Qusay and they said, return the keys. He said, I'm not going to return the keys. I'm not going to return the keys. So they said, be ready for a battle. He said, I'm ready. So Qusay said, I am ready. Now, during all this time, Qusay had developed an image in the Arab Peninsula, and especially in Mecca, that he was a very fair person. He was a very switched on person. He was an entrepreneur. He was a person that was very generous, very kind. So now what happened is all the Quraish who had lost power, they could see that they are going to regain power through Qusay. So they all supported Qusay bin Kilab, number one. And there were many, many other tribes that had nothing to do with this, but they wanted a ruler that could rule the Arab Peninsula, and especially Batha, Mecca. So they said, we will support you as well. But Banu Khuzā was not ready to give up. So a battle takes place. A battle takes place. So Banu Khuzā comes with force. Qusay with the Quraysh tribes and many other tribes, they unite, and there's a big battle, and many, many people die. From both sides. Many, many people die. Now people are dropping like flies. So one fine day, both parties said, look, this is not right. We're losing people. So what we need to do is we need to decide how to end this. Indeed, everyone understood that Qusay has more power because he had all the Quraysh, number one, and he had many other tribes that were supporting him as well. Banu Khuzā was alone. So now what happens is we will have to wait until next week. Keep you thirsty. Keep you thirsty. All right, a recap. All right, a recap of everything. A recap is very, very important. So alhamdulillah, today we are speaking about the forefather Qusay, who is a very important personality. Why? Because he is the one that basically took leadership from Banu Khuzā. We made mention that one of the important lessons that we derive from this is Allah gives us a bounty, but He takes the bounty away because of a reason. We learned this from Banu Jurham and Banu Ismail, that were the leaders of this beautiful sanctuary. They fell to lust and desire as we are falling to lust and desire. So Allah Almighty sent Banu Khuzā to take over. So they did take over. The leader of Banu Jurham and Banu Ismail at that time, his name was Madad bin Amr bin Haris. He felt that something is going to happen. So he went into the Kaaba, took all the valuable items, and then he buried it in the Zamzam, thinking that in a few years we will return back. And he concealed the Zamzam, not knowing that he will not return and many generations will not return, and we will return back in 290 years. 140, 150 years before Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right, so now what happens is Kilab, all right, Kilab, he has a wife whose name is Fatima binte Sa'ad bin Suhail, mashallah. For Umar it's very easy, Arab names, but for us hard. So Fatima. So Kilab marries a lady whose name is Fatima. Fatima and Kilab have two children. One is Zuhra and one is Qusayy. Zuhra is the older brother. Kilab dies, father dies. So now Fatima, she marries a person whose name is Rabi'a bin Haram. So now this small family of four, Fatima, Rabi'a, Zuhra, Qusayy, they're living together, but the father, Rabi'a, he says, can't do business here. So he migrates with this small family to Sham. And then they have another brother, and that brother's name is Daraj. So now there's 5 people in this family. One fine day, Qusayy is speaking and somebody informs him that Rabi'a is not your father. So he goes and speaks to his mother, Fatima, and he says, who's my father? She says, your father is not Rabi'a, but you have a beautiful lineage. So he says, I'm leaving. So he comes back. He comes back to Makkah al-Mukarramah, and in a few years he makes a lot of wealth. He was very, very intelligent. And at the same time, he came to know that the leadership of this beautiful place was in our family and it has been taken away from us for the last 290 years. So he starts making plans. So now what he does is he finds out who is the most influential person here. It is a person from the Khuzai tribe. His name is Halil bin Habshiyya. She has a daughter, Hibbi binti Habshiyya. He marries her. Now when he marries her, Halil bin Habshiyya is on his last legs, he dies. But before dying, he gives the keys. This key is very important. He gives this key to who? Abu Ghasyani. So he gives it to this one person from the Qusaiyy tribe. He gives it to his daughter, Hibbi. So he gives it to his daughter, but the daughter is not very interested. She gives it to this person, Abu Ghasyani, from the same tribe. He's a drunken person. One day, Qusay finds the right time. He gives him a little bit money. He needs it, and he gives him the keys. So now, Qusay has the keys. Banu Khuzar realizes that we have lost the key, so they gain all their power. Qusay, Quraish, other tribes, they come together, and there's a fight that takes place. And inshallah, we'll speak about this fight and how it ends next week. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.